Oh, I'm about to pass out. I just ate a whole bag of candy. Oh, I just needed to eat candy. I well, needed. It's an addiction, obviously. I don't need to eat candy, but I haven't eaten candy in 24 hours. I had not eaten candy in 24 hours, so probably a little more. And I was going crazy because I eat candy every single day. Something, either it could be gummy bears or gumdrops or licorice. It's usually something fruity and chewy or fruity and gummy. But every single day I eat, a handful. It's sort of, so I don't know if that's a physical addiction or if it's a psychological addiction, but I hadn't eaten candy since last night, and I think it's a bit of a physical addiction too. It's psychological because I just enjoy eating it, but there are times when I've been kind of feeling without any energy, even though I ate. I'll eat a good healthy meal, but sometimes even, and I've eaten a good meal and I'm still kind of down or whatever, and I'll eat a little handful of candy or something, and I'll feel better. One time I remember I had this horrible headache. It was just, a dull, it wasn't a migraine, but it was this dull headache. So it was horrible because it wasn't going away, and I'd had it all day, and I was like, oh, kind of with no energy. And I don't have the best diet in the world. I usually skip breakfast. I'll eat like something from the candy machine at lunch. So by dinner time, by the time I get home, it's my only meal of the day, really. That's the habit I've gotten into for the past year or so. It's really bad, but usually, yeah, I go to the candy machine at lunch. I'll get a candy or crackers and candy. I'll usually get two things because the restaurant in my building where I'm working now is so expensive. It's not super expensive, but even if it were $5 or $6, if you spend that every day, it adds up. So I don't want to. I'd rather just spend $2 and get something from the candy machine. And we have Diet Coke in the office sometimes. If we don't, I'll just drink water. So I was really scaring myself. I was like scaring myself in how desperate I was for candy. It was about 8 o'clock, and I just said I can't take this anymore. I had been saying holding off. I said okay, hold off. I liken it to people I've seen who have tried to stop smoking. It's hard. I mean, 24 hours without a cigarette, I imagine is just as hard for them as 24 hours without candy is for me, or any other addiction. But I can sympathize with people who have addictions that are worse, to worse substances. Although candy could cause you to get sick too. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. Well, I don't really want to talk about anything in particular, but I wanted to get to an experience I had this week. Yeah, experience. I mean, it's something that happened to me. But no, but it is an experience. So I take the bus to work. So I went to work, and that day was a very different day traveling to and from work than it normally has been. It was like a very different in as I was meeting a lot of new people. I got to my bus stop to go to, the transfer stop is where I was switching. And there I talked to one person, and there was another new guy at the stop that was never there before, and I was talking to him. Just friendly, And we went, and that guy, the only reason he was on that bus because he was late that day. So that's why he ended up on my bus. And on the way home, I guess that was Friday. Was it Friday or Thursday? Maybe it was Thursday. And on the way home, I was late getting home. getting my bus, so I missed my usual bus. I had to take the one after it. And the same guy that I had met that morning on his way to his job got on the next stop or two because he works near me. So we talked a little bit again, and I had run into another man, a Haitian man that I sometimes run into at my stop on the way home. Like twice a week he'll be at my stop, and I've started talking to him. And he was talking to me about, well, he's apparently somewhat Christian, so he talked to me about how sometimes you need the Lord and all. So, I'm not a super religious person. I always listen to people when they talk about the Lord and about God and spirituality, because it's interesting to hear people's views, and sometimes I see how important it is to have a faith in something, whether it be religion or whether it be, the balance of the universe or karma, but it's important for human beings to have faith in something. We apparently need that. And those of us who don't, which I am sort of in that category, we're not always at peace. It's very peaceful to have something to hang on to, And some people are atheists, but they hang on to their philosophy. So in a way, they're religious about their atheism. So it still, gives them that center that they need. But I don't believe in anything. So it's just, I don't believe and I don't not believe. I guess they call it an agnostic, where you just have absolutely no idea. So it does kind of drive you nuts. But, but I'd like to, listen, and who knows, someday we'll find out the truth maybe, or maybe we won't, after we're gone from here. And so I guess I'm getting more accepting of this as I age. I figure, well, I don't know, and I just don't know. What can I do? I just have to try to, live. But anyway, so after that, speaking with a Haitian man, and I got off at my stop to take my transfer bus, and then I met a woman who lives in the woods. She's a homeless lady. You could tell she was very beautiful at one time, and she's probably not very old, but life on the streets and all, and she was drinking and smoking at the bus stop out of a paper bag, but I was just speaking to people a lot that day, I noticed. And I sat down with her at the stop. Had to wait for the bus. And she spoke to me. She told me, I live in the woods. I've been living there for 10 years. And who knows how much of it was true and how much wasn't. But, because many times the people that are on the street are not always mentally all there. So, but no, obviously she'd had a rough time on the streets. She was very worn, very worn looking, but very beautiful. Her eyes were so bright. They were bright blue. And then, so it's like her eyes were beautiful, and they were surrounded by this ruined woman, and she was drinking and smoking, and she kind of smelled, and she said she has some pets, that she has a rabbit and a dog, and she has a parakeet, all in this woods. I guess it's nearby. I was even kind of curious. I was kind of wanting to go see, just, she's got some kind of camp out there, and she says it's all hers, and she has a cockatiel, I think that's what she says, and that she's down on her luck, and she doesn't even able to feed them. And I figured, okay, she's leading up to asking me for money, which she didn't end up doing, which even if I would have wanted to give to her, I wouldn't have been able to, because I only had my debit card on me. I didn't have actual cash anyway, so I'm kind of glad it didn't end up getting to that point. But I was assuming she would probably eventually be working up to me giving her money. But and then she's friends with another homeless lady that also hangs around that bus stop. But I'd never seen the lady I spoke with. I had never seen her before, but I'd seen the other homeless lady a few times. She told me she was an orphan and that at age 9 she'd ended up on the streets, and that she, throughout her, all these horrible things that had happened to her. The wait was a while. It was like 15 minutes because apparently I'd missed the other bus, and the buses come about every 15 minutes. So because I was with her, for a while waiting, and she was just very, I don't know. She seemed like very. She didn't seem crazy. She seemed like a woman who'd had a tough life, and so obviously that wears on you psychologically too. And she seemed like she was addicted to alcohol because she was drinking that beer, but also, again, the look, white people that are very red, and she looked, again, and it's always me, that's the first thing I think. I'm very not uncomfortable around alcohol, but it's definitely one of my phobias, that someone is alcoholic. So I'm more, but she did appear. And when people drink a lot, they have a smell that comes from them, a certain smell of, maybe it's alcohol that's built up inside their system. You can smell it from their pores, because she didn't have other odor. She didn't have the odors that homeless people many times have of uncleanliness. Because I've met people who aren't homeless who are alcoholic, and they have that smell also. And it's not their breath. It's you're next to them and you smell it. It's like coming from their skin. So, where was I? Oh, so that's what she smelled like. She didn't smell of anything, other than that. So, and her hair was clean. So, I mean, it wasn't stringy. So, apparently she's getting showers somewhere. But, anyway, you could tell she wasn't completely well. I mean, she told me, even just the things she said. But she was very coherent when she spoke. Sometimes you speak with homeless people and it's like they're not there. But she was completely there talking to me, as far as I could tell. What she said was coherent. She responded to my questions. I mean, it was just, So in a way, I sort of admired. I mean, you might hear the dogs jingling around over there. Yeah, I'm still house sitting. Tomorrow my friend's coming back. Okay, so after that, I said bye. I didn't even ask her name. Usually I like to get names for, I'm not sure why. In case something happens to them, you might hear in the news, sometimes you hear homeless person murdered. They're subject to a lot of violence. A lot of attacks are made on homeless people because they're very vulnerable. They're out there, it's at night, and all the bad things come out at night oftentimes. So homeless people are one of the most vulnerable communities to physical attacks, rape. Homeless women are very vulnerable to rape. And she told me, oh gosh, I've been raped, I've been beaten up, and it's really true. You can see that in the statistics. So I thought, well, if, as long as she, sometimes homeless people won't talk to you because they're paranoid. And so, but when they do talk, I do ask their name, because if something should happen to them, you're a witness, maybe. It might come out in the papers, and you say, oh, well, I was speaking with her. She said her name was this and that. Or, I don't know. And just because you're talking to them, So, so I got on my bus. I said goodbye to the lady, and it was empty. There was like one person sitting up in the front, and I like to sit in the back of the bus because it's bouncier back there. It's fun, especially when it's empty. Because when the bus is full, there's more weight, and weighing it down, it doesn't bounce around as much. But when it's empty, you sit in the very, very back. It's really fun. So I went back there, And as I was going to my left, I looked on the floor, and there was sort of a pouch, a black pouch, square-shaped pouch. I said, "Oh, somebody lost their purse." So I picked it up, and I myself look inside first to see if there's any identification, and then because I've found things before, and if there's ID in it. I found a purse once at Sears on the ground, and it was apparently someone who had put the purse on top of her car and driven off. I've done that before too. You put the purse on the top of your car, to unlock the door, and then you forget it's up there. You drive away. So, sorry, that happened over 10 years ago. Whenever I think of it, I laugh. But, so I drove into Sears one day. I see this purse on the ground, and I looked in. There was the identification, so I called the lady, and so she got her purse back. So that's when I found this pouch. It wasn't a purse, it was a pouch on the bus. I opened it up to see if there was any identification in there. And what it was it was a book cover, and inside the book, it was a zip-up book protector, and inside was a Bible. It was the King James Bible. And then a sort of a contraption with batteries in it that you could turn it on. It was a light. So apparently it was a very religious person who even, that was my feeling, because if they even want to have a night light so that they can read the Bible at all times of the day. So, just a simple black purse with a fish, one of those Jesus fishes as the zipper. Kind of neat little pouch. And I said, "Oh, this person must really be, going crazy if they're used to reading the Bible all the time and suddenly they don't have it." There are people who just need to have that. That's their security blanket. And so I said, "Oh, this poor person." And I looked, there was no identification in there. And I said, "Oh, wow, this poor person." But there was inside the cover of the Bible, inside the pages, there was a pamphlet for a church, which is it kind of, on that bus route. Not on the bus route, but it leaves you close to another place that goes to that area where the church was in. It's not too far from. So, so I said, "Oh, okay, well, good. I have the name of the church. The person probably goes to this church." I mean, it was not a stretch to think that if they've got a pamphlet from the church, they might be a regular at that place. So because when I didn't want to give it to the bus driver, because the bus driver would have taken it back to headquarters of the transportation department or something, and it's more of a hassle if I know that the person goes to this church. And I figured, in worst case scenario, if the person doesn't end up going to that church, then I will give it to a bus driver and tell them, "Look, I found it." So, but by then time would have passed anyway. But I think that was Thursday that happened. So I said to myself, this Sunday, I'm going to look on the internet, what time is the Mass, and I'm going to go this Sunday. And as long as I'm going, I may as well go to the Mass and see, see what it's about, because I hadn't been to church in a while. And I really enjoy going to church, even if I'm not religious. I really love to go to church. I like the Masses, and I like the singing. Any church. I've been to all different churches. The singing is usually really nice. It says nice things, and how Jesus gave up his life for us, and it's a real sweet story, if nothing else. And I went to parochial school. I mean, I'm a Catholic by birth, but I just never, I don't know. I just never got hooked on it. And my parents also never really pushed us to be religious, so it was sort of like they didn't care if we wanted to be. They really weren't, but they didn't care if we wanted to be. They were sort of, make your own decision about it. So that's probably okay. I mean, you do have to make your own decision about spirituality. But we did go to Catholic school. It was a school in the area. I guess my parents thought it was a good school, so they sent us there. But it wasn't because of the religiousness of it. So yeah, maybe because of that I enjoy going to church. But I remember even when I was younger. Anyway, so the thing cut off on me while I was talking, so I don't remember where I left off. But I went to the church because inside the Bible I found a pamphlet with the name of a church in the area. So that Sunday, I got home. I looked up the church on the internet, and it told me what time the masses were, mass times were. So I said, "Oh, I'm going to go this Sunday, drop off this church, drop off the Bible at the Lost and Found, and I'll sit through the mass too, and just see what it's about." And it was a non-denominational church, so I went to mass this morning, and when I got there, they always have greeters to greet new people, and the people that usually go, they just have church greeters that are designated that week. So I asked the lady as I was going in, I said, I found this Bible on the bus the other day, and I think the person goes to this church. So, and then someone overheard me, "Oh, that must be Victor. Victor lost his Bible on the bus." And so it's like, they already knew that a Bible had been lost. Or at least the guy did. Yeah, I work with him so he sounded like he was telling the truth. Why would he, I mean, this is not an expensive Bible. It was just a paperback Bible, and the bag was nice, but it wasn't a big deal. So I really, he sounded like he was telling the truth. And, I guess, we're at church. I shouldn't be, suspecting people of trying to steal, but that is my logical thing. What I would usually think, oh, is he telling the truth? But no, right away he just really seemed like he was telling the truth. So I said, "Oh, okay, well, here, if you're going to see him, here it is." I said, "Yeah, he's going to be arriving later today. If he arrives while you're still here, I'll introduce you to him." I said, "Okay, that'd be nice. Bye." And so I went to the mass, and it was really beautiful music. It's just Christian music that I think I've even heard the songs before in other non-denominational churches. They sing maybe the same songs in the different churches. And I started crying during one of them called, what was it? I don't even remember the name of the song now, but I started crying. Oh my gosh. So I don't know why I started crying. I mean, I know why. I've been kind of sensitive. I ended up breaking up with the casual guy, the guy that wanted to just have a casual relationship, and I started getting a bit pushy on him. I knew it was going to end up breaking up the relationship. Whatever, it wasn't even a relationship, but I knew that if I started pressuring him to get committed, he was going to, flee. And so that's what happened. I mean, I couldn't take the non-committal thing where he just called me whenever he feels like, and he doesn't have to answer to me, about anything. I didn't feel I was getting anything out of that for my emotional needs. So I did start to kind of bring up that I didn't like the situation. He said, "Okay, well then, bye." I mean, basically, he was nicer about it, but I mean, it wasn't unexpected completely, but I guess I was hoping maybe I was worth a little more than that, and that he might actually say, "Okay, well, I understand. Maybe I could be a little bit..." I wasn't pressuring it to be my one and only. I was just... But, anyway, it was obviously not going to work out, so it's basically over. What no relationship was there is now completely over. So it's hurting me a little bit. I miss him, and even though I didn't see him that often, but he would text me, sometimes, and so that's all over with. And so I don't really have any what little I had, I now have nothing. So but anyway, but that's okay. I know that it was only going to end badly, because how long could I go on? He would have continued that way for forever probably. And so I was a little sensitive about that. And then But I wasn't crying about him at church, but I guess since I was already a little bit down and a little sensitive, and then on top of that, the music is so beautiful, and the story of Jesus is so beautiful. It's just so, I guess you wish that someone would love you as much as they say Jesus loves us. If I could know that that was true, it would be wonderful. But I guess there's something in me that doesn't allow me to just completely fall blindly into, religion or belief in God and Jesus. And I believe there is something out there that is just so unimaginable to us that our small minds can't comprehend whatever's out there. We don't know. Just like animals of the lower orders than us don't know how much we love them. I mean, they know we feed them, and they know that we're nice to them, and we play with, like dogs, for example. I don't know that they know how much we love them, and or anything. I mean, even people who save the dolphins or save the whales have no idea how much these people love them and value them. But the people doing that don't do it for thanks and for glorification. They do it because they're inspired to do that because the love is one way. They love the whales. The whales don't love us. So that unconditional, that's what unconditional love is, or at least value, giving the whales value, or giving any animal value. So whatever is above us is just something we can't comprehend, and we can, so I don't know what I'm trying to say, but so I started crying at church. That was my point. And I was like, oh my God, these people don't even know me. And here I am crying. And I thought I was hiding it because the tears were streaming, but I said, well, tears are clear. So, as long as I keep my eyes wide open, people aren't going to know. And as long as I don't rub my, because I didn't have a tissue or anything. So it's like, okay, I was trying so hard not to cry because I said, I'm going to make a fool of myself. I don't even know these people. So I thought I was hiding it. Suddenly this tissue comes out of nowhere. So some person in the congregation hands me a tissue. I was just like, oh my God, I wanted to die. Because it was pretty crowded, So anyway, oh, it's hot. I start laughing, I get hot. All right, let me put the air conditioner on. So anyway, it was nice. I said, oh, thank you. I was trying to be very pious, and and so then I calmed down. I wiped my eyes. I was okay, and then the pastor gave his mass, which is that part was a little bit boring. I always thought mass was sort of boring, except I like Bible studies, though. I've been to Bible studies where they analyze what the Bible says. I like those. But mass, to me, occasionally it'll be a really good mass if you get a really good pastor and he happens to be talking about a subject that is interesting. But for the most part, I find the part where the preacher or the pastor talks is usually kind of boring. But okay, it's only a little while. And then they started singing again. The mass ended, and then they start singing as the people walk out. It was very young, a lot of young people there, which is nice because they do a lot of work for the community and feed the homeless and all kinds of things like that. So it's good to see young people involved in bettering the community. I always encourage that too, which is another good thing about the church. there are non-religious places that also do community service, but part of the message in most churches is a very strong emphasis on community service, on helping the needy, and encouraging marital what do you call those, marriage not therapy. Yeah, well, they don't call it marriage therapy at church. They call it something else, but it's for couples to go and to keep their marriage strong, which is always a healthy thing. So, I fully support the church, as long as it doesn't get into any church. As long as you don't get into, well, like how some very, very orthodox religions, even the Catholic religion, I have to say, is a bit too orthodox. We know that within the Christian religion you have Protestants, you have Mormons, you have even Jehovah's Witnesses or Christians, you have and then with the Protestants you have Episcopalians, Methodists, Baptists. So Catholics would be considered one of the more orthodox, what do you call it? Yeah, very, very strict. Where when they're that strict, it's borderline getting a little weird. I was raised a Catholic, so I don't want to make us sound like crazies, but then you have someone who's got a few screws loose, and he's in the Catholic religion, and the same with the Muslim religion. We tend to forget that they're all different levels of extremism. There's very moderate ones, just like any Protestant is moderate. They believe in Jesus, but they're not going to do any violent acts in the name of Jesus. Nor would many Muslims not do any violent acts in the name of Allah, or any Jewish people do violent acts in the name of their God. So, most people are good. I believe most people are good people in the world. But yeah, you get the bad apples. I'll turn that off because it makes so much noise. I try to stay to one topic. I end up going all over the place. But what was I talking about? So, what was I saying? Well, anyway, I think I was talking about why I support religion. So, for the most part, I do support organized religion, because I think as long as it's not taken to an extreme, it supports good things, and it strengthens a community. So, sometimes it does bother me, even though I don't necessarily believe in the religions. It bothers me the way sometimes atheists will attack and belittle religion, or religious people, or Christians, or, usually it's Christians. It seems lately it's okay to attack Christians verbally, as far, on Facebook, and, it's not the same. If you say anything against Jewish people or Muslim people, you're called a racist, and you shouldn't say things about someone because of their religion. But by the same token, you should also not, it's not a free-for-all against Christians either. That's just being as, I don't know if you call it racism, because it's not a race, it's a religion, but that's just as discriminatory as attacking any religion. It's not any worse or any better. So that kind of annoys me, the hypocrisy there that I see.